Rodney was known for his charismatic personality and charming demeanor. At 32, with tousled hair and piercing eyes, he attracted attention wherever he went. His laid-back appearance and easy smile hid a complicated family history that made him avoid serious commitments and festive dates. From a young age, Rodney distanced himself from family celebrations. The memories of the tumultuous Christmases of his childhood still haunted him. He preferred to spend the holidays in bars or at parties with friends, seeking superficial fun to fill the emptiness he felt. Franklin had been his best friend and co-worker for years. The two would always go out together on every festive occasion, enjoying the single life without getting attached to anything or anyone. But things were changing that week. The office was buzzing with the anticipation of Christmas. People were talking about trips, dinners, and family reunions. Rodney, on the other hand, already had something in mind. Another night out with Franklin. 2 days before Christmas Eve, Rodney approached his friend with enthusiasm at the end of another workday. "Hey, you won't believe it. I found a new bar that's going to be the hit of Christmas night. Amazing place, live music, and lots of beautiful women. We have to go, buddy." Franklin smiled, but his smile was different this time. There was a hint of embarrassment in his eyes. "Man, it sounds awesome, but remember that girl I told you about, Rita? Things have gotten serious between us." Rodney frowned, still not fully processing. "Serious? Like how serious? Like I'm going to spend Christmas with her family this year? She invited me, and I thought it was the right time, you know? You can't say no." Rodney's shock was evident. His loyal partner for so many parties and escapades was trading all of them for a family Christmas. He tried to hide his disappointment with a nervous laugh. "Oh, I see. So you're going to tie the knot, is that it?" Franklin laughed, trying to ease the situation. "It's not like that, man, but life changes, you know. Maybe one day you'll understand." Still incredulous, Rodney shrugged and pretended not to care. After saying goodbye, Rodney tried to repeat the invitation to other friends, sending messages and even stopping by some desks at the office. However, the response was always the same. Everyone already had commitments. For the first time, Rodney realized that while he remained stagnant in his lifestyle, the people around him were moving on. What once seemed like a fun and free choice was now beginning to weigh as inevitable loneliness. On the last workday before the holiday, the office was filled with a festive atmosphere. Twinkling lights shone around the windows, and a subtle aroma of gingerbread cookies mingled with the usual smell of coffee. Laughter echoed down the hallways, accompanied by the muffled sound of Christmas songs someone insisted on playing on the break room radio. Rodney's colleagues were excited, exchanging cards and warm hugs as they gathered their things. Some carried packages wrapped in vibrant paper, gifts for secret friends or family. In contrast, Rodney remained at his desk, his gaze lost on the computer screen, absent-mindedly fiddling with a pen. He pretended to be busy, even though there were no more pending tasks to resolve. The truth was, he was in no hurry to leave. He had no parties to attend, nor anyone waiting for him. His phone rang, interrupting the hum of his thoughts. Seeing his mother's name on the screen, he sighed. It wasn't the first time that week she had called. He knew what was coming. "Hello, Mom," he answered, trying to sound more cheerful than he felt. "Rodney, dear, I know you're busy, but I hope you're still considering my offer. The dinner will be wonderful, and everyone would love to see you. It's been so long," she insisted. Her voice was laden with expectation. Rodney squeezed his eyes shut, a pang of guilt mixing with discomfort. He didn't want to disappoint her, but the idea of facing painful memories and complicated family dynamics held him back. "Thanks for the invitation, Mom, but I already have plans. It's going to be exciting," he lied, trying to sound convincing. On the other end of the line, there was a brief but significant pause. "All right, dear. I just want you to know there's always a place for you at the table," she replied with a tenderness that intensified the emptiness inside him. When he hung up, Rodney looked up and noticed the office was almost empty. Except for him and Alice, who was still silently working at her desk in the finance department. Alice was a discreet figure, almost invisible in the hectic day-to-day of the office. Her long brown hair was pulled back in a simple bun. Usually in neutral shades and classic cuts, Alice was seen as practical and reserved among her irreverent colleagues. Nicknamed Cat Lady, this stereotype reflected their superficial view of her as a solitary, eccentric woman. Rodney, like many, never bothered to find out if it was true. Alice seemed immersed in numbers and reports, oblivious to whispers. Rarely invited to social events, she accepted exclusion without discomfort. Her introspective nature was seen as coldness. Passing Rodney's desk, she paused, smiled shyly, and spoke, breaking the office silence. "I didn't realize anyone was still around. You're dedicated. Just don't work too hard or you'll be late for Christmas dinner," Alice said. Rodney, surprised, laughed awkwardly. "I don't have plans," he replied. Alice hesitated, then invited him to her simple Christmas dinner. Rodney was speechless, not expecting to spend Christmas with the Cat Lady. He almost declined, but Alice's genuine kindness disarmed him. "Why not? It might be nice to eat something other than frozen food," he said, smiling. Alice nodded, pleased with his response. Arriving at Alice's apartment, Rodney was greeted by an excited Labrador, not cats. "This is Max," Alice introduced the dog. Rodney laughed at the irony. The apartment was cozy with a cinnamon and pine aroma. He admired a painting on the wall. "I painted it," Alice said. Rodney praised the painting. Alice invited him to help himself at the bar while she finished dinner. Rodney chose red wine and settled on the sofa, feeling at ease. "Do you wait until midnight to eat?" Alice asked. "We can eat now," Rodney replied. They sat at a meticulously set table. Dinner included roasted turkey, potatoes, vegetables, and a pie. Rodney was surprised by Alice's care in preparation. During dinner, Alice asked, "May I ask why you're alone on Christmas?" Rodney hesitated, eyes on his wine glass, disarmed by Alice's welcoming gaze. "My family is complicated," Rodney began, voice low. "As a child, holidays were battles. Small details turned into arguments. Christmas was never harmonious." He paused, distant. Alice remained silent, encouraging him. "But one Christmas was different," he continued, voice choked. "My parents were calm, almost kind. My sister joked it was a miracle. We laughed, talked without arguing. It seemed normal," Rodney recalled, lowering his gaze. "That night, they called us for a conversation. I thought it was special news, but they announced their separation." To relieve the weight of the memory, it was a shock. I spent the night staring at the twinkling lights of the Christmas tree, trying to understand how something that seemed so peaceful and happy had been just a farewell in disguise. After years apart, my parents ended up getting back together. It seemed like they had found a balance, but the feeling of instability never went away. Since then, they always invite me to spend the holidays with them, but deep down, I think I have fear. What if in the middle of an apparently calm dinner they start arguing again? Or worse, what if at the end of the night they announce once again that they are going to separate? It's as if a part of me is always waiting for the worst to happen. That's why I prefer to keep my distance. You know, it's easier to deal with the loneliness I already know than to open up to something that might end up hurting me again. He took a deep breath. Maybe it's cowardice, but that's how I've been dealing with it. I avoid getting close so as not to risk losing everything again." Alice listened attentively, her gaze filled with sympathy as Rodney shared his story. When he finished, a brief silence settled in. Rodney felt the weight of the honesty he had just shared. In a mix of curiosity and vulnerability, he asked hesitantly, "And you, Alice, why didn't you have any plans for Christmas?" Alice gently set down her fork, as if the gesture helped her gather the words she needed to say. Her brown eyes softened, but there was a shadow there, the mark of an old and deep pain. "Well, my parents have already passed away. They were both wonderful people, but they left too soon. And to be honest, my marriage didn't survive the death of our 3-year-old son." The impact of her words was immediate. Rodney, completely caught off guard, almost choked on his food. He dropped his fork onto the plate, the sound echoing in the silent room. His eyes widened as he looked at Alice, trying to reconcile her image with her suffering. I'm sorry, Alice. I had no idea." His voice faltered, laden with a mix of regret and embarrassment for never having truly noticed her. Alice, however, smiled gently, a smile that spoke of acceptance and strength. "It's okay, Rodney. Thank you. It's been a few years. I still miss him every day, of course. The longing never completely disappears, but the most intense pain has passed." She took a deep breath, her eyes briefly wandering to the painting on the wall. "Unfortunately, grief was something my ex-husband and I couldn't face together. We lost our son, and over time we lost each other too." Rodney shifted uncomfortably in the chair, feeling as if his own fears and traumas diminished in the face of Alice's deep pain. "You are very strong, Alice," murmured Rodney, feeling disarmed by her calmness and honesty. Alice looked up and shrugged slightly, the smile on her lips now softer. "Strength isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's just the only option we have." "Can I give you some advice, Rodney?" Alice asked gently. "Don't let the fear of the future steal the moments you can enjoy in the present with your family. Living stuck in the past robs us of precious time." Alice's words touched Rodney deeply. The rest of the dinner proceeded in a light and fun manner. They discovered they had a lot in common, from musical taste to favorite movies. Rodney was surprised to realize how time flew by in her company. Around midnight, Rodney remarked, "Alice, I had a great time tonight." "I never imagined you had so many funny stories," Alice laughed. "Who would have thought that the cat lady was a lead singer in a rock band in college, right?" Rodney blushed, embarrassed that she knew about the nickname, but Alice didn't seem offended, just amused. Suddenly, Rodney had an idea. "Alice, you were right about not wasting time on past fears. Would you accompany me to my parents' house? They don't live far from here. Maybe we can still catch dessert." Alice agreed, happy to help Rodney reconnect with his family. Arriving at Rodney's parents' house, they were greeted with surprise and joy. Rodney's mother, a gray-haired lady with a warm smile, couldn't hide her emotion at seeing her son. "Rodney, what a wonderful surprise," she exclaimed, hugging him tightly. Rodney's father, a man with a serious appearance but a kind gaze, smiled upon seeing his son. "I'm glad you came, son." Rodney introduced Alice as a friend, and she was warmly welcomed by the family. The room was decorated with Christmas lights. The aroma of cinnamon and hot chocolate filled the air. Rodney's family was visibly happy with his unexpected presence. His siblings, already married and with children, played with the kids around the Christmas tree. Rodney felt a pang of regret for having missed so many moments like this. As they savored the dessert, a delicious pecan pie, Rodney observed the scene around him. His mother laughed at a joke from his father. His nephews and nieces ran joyfully through the room, and Alice chatted animatedly with his sister-in-law. He realized that the fear that had kept him away for so long was unfounded. Here was the family he had avoided so much, united and happy. In the months that followed, Rodney and Alice grew closer and closer. He discovered in her an understanding friend and a fun companion. Alice, in turn, found in Rodney someone who made her laugh and encouraged her to come out of her shell. Gradually, the feelings between them began to change. Rodney, who had always avoided serious relationships, found himself completely in love with a woman who was once labeled as the weird one in the office. At Christmas the following year, Rodney and Alice were celebrating together at his family's house. The atmosphere was festive, filled with laughter and lively conversations. Rodney watched Alice interacting with his family, feeling a happiness he hadn't experienced in a long time. In a moment of calm, Rodney asked for everyone's attention. With his heart racing, he knelt before Alice, taking a small box out of his pocket. "Alice, you taught me that the past does not need to define our future. With you, I learned to value each moment and to open my heart again. You make me want to be a better person every day. Will you marry me?" With tears in her eyes, Alice gave an emotional yes. Rodney's family applauded and celebrated, moved by the moment. As he embraced Alice, Rodney whispered, "Christmas is now not a date to remember, with fear of the past, but with hope for the future." They kissed, sealing not only their love, but also the promise of a future full of joy. Rodney finally understood that the true Christmas spirit was not in the decorations or presents, but in the ability to forgive, start anew, and love. That night, while everyone celebrated the engagement and the union of the family, Rodney looked at Alice with gratitude. She was not only the woman he loved, but also the person who helped him rediscover the value of family and the magic of Christmas. And so, what began as an unexpected meeting between two lonely hearts turned into a beautiful story of love, healing, and rebirth. Rodney and Alice proved that sometimes the best Christmas gifts don't come wrapped, but in the form of second chances and new beginnings.